You are tuned into Mostly Humans. The opinions and views shared by the hosts of this podcast are uniquely their own and do not reflect the view or opinions of the companies they work for. P.S. Don't sue or fire us. Thanks so much. Now let's get into the episode.
If we're all doing that, then we all don't think that's cool anymore.
I didn't know we were going to hit Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the end of this podcast, but I'm glad that we went there. Welcome back to Mostly Humans, our podcast for AI things for everybody. And I am one of your hosts, Justin Wright. I'm joined by my stellar co-host, Matt Bigelow. Matt, how are we doing today?
Doing great. How's your week been going?
I can't complain, some time with friends. I got to sneak it. We're recording on a weekend morning today for the people at home. I got to sneak a workout in this morning before this. So all in all, pretty good.
Same. I also snuck a workout in. I'm dealing with extreme tendonitis in my left arm, and I finally found one of those wraps, like a really good one where you can crank it. So I can put it right on the spot, and I was getting through some stuff today that I haven't been able to get through in months, which was really nice. But also the second I take it off, I'm like screaming. As I brush my teeth, I'm like, ow, ow.
No good.
I've been doing dry needling for the last 2 months, at least once a week. It's been super helpful. But like anything that you need for sports injuries, you have to pay cash if you really want to get good treatments. And that doesn't scale very well for me.
No, it's not great. It is an expensive prospect. And now it's like I used to have a small army of people who worked on me, and now it's basically none. And it's quite a difference. You notice it.
Well, maybe, just maybe, I'll have less tennis elbow, because these days I am talking to my computer using WhisperFlow and talking to AI agents. And the future of work, I think, involves far less of me typing and mousing, which segues perfectly into today's topic, which is the future of work in AI.
I love your segues. They are always showstoppers. So well done. But this is good. This was something that we wanted to revisit for a while because we talked about it a little bit several episodes ago, in kind of an early episode. And I think even some of the things that we thought would be true then have already changed. And because the space is changing so fast. And I'd be interested to hear maybe how your perspective has changed on what you think the future of work will look like. And then I have some ideas based on even just the latest developments from the Anthropic team and some of the tools that are available that I think will change things quite a bit as well.
So I think the landscape has changed and the tools have changed. But my opinion is actually exactly the same. We are really, really moving towards outcomes-based work very quickly, at least for knowledge work. I'm just not qualified to talk about working not on a computer. And I think the vast majority of people that listen to this podcast work on a computer. So as it relates to knowledge work, I think we've always put a lot of value into the inputs that we put into the job every day. And when people think about what's going to get automated by AI, they think about the inputs. They're like, it can take notes. I used to take great notes. Oh, it can read 10Ks. I used to read 10Ks super well. Oh, it can make decks. I used to be known for making the best decks. Oh, it does deal briefs for the executives. I used to be the best at that. And people start to get like clutching their pearls a little bit, right? But that was never why you were hired. Those things were inputs on the way to the output or the outcome. And the outcome was either to make a sale, to get a customer more value, to troubleshoot an issue, to market a product, to build a product, etc. So I think now more than ever with some of the latest advancements of the things that we've seen from OpenClaw, Claude Cowork, Claude Code, I think we are moving towards a work future where all we need to be obsessing about is how do we get to the outcome? And we need to stop thinking about the inputs being our job so much.
Yeah, I think that's very valid. And I do agree. I think that point still stands very much. Tactically, the thing that I think is now very possible, and I think we'll start seeing more of. So there's always been this concept of we'll start seeing the first single person $1 billion company. That was one of Sam Altman's predictions at some point in the future. And I don't think we really saw a path to that yet. And I think that might be an exaggeration in some ways. I think it will eventually happen. But on a smaller scale of that thought, I think we're going to start to see a lot more highly successful single person agencies. So there's this wave of kind of solopreneurs, solo entrepreneurs that became really popular as the internet got more powerful, as people started to understand marketing and lead generation and all that stuff. And that was kind of the previous generation of the internet. But now with AI tools, I think you're going to see a couple things. One, I think you're going to see very solid individual contributors, the type of people that you just mentioned who were the best at building XYZ at their company. Those people, I think, are going to have the ability to spin off now and build really powerful solutions for others who aren't as comfortable with AI tools. So you'll see these single person industries where it's way easier to build a prototype now. Before, for product or creating software, you had to draft up your ideas and then talk about it with other people and spend a lot of time planning. And that's still very important. But now in that planning process, you can spin up 10 prototypes in an afternoon and use those to actually refine the product and make things better. There's this concept of the 10x engineer or whatever in Silicon Valley of there's some software engineers who literally could do 10x the output of other people for whatever reason. They were just that talented. I think now we're seeing 10x insert role here for people who are leveraging and comfortable with the modern AI tools because they're able to output really, really high volumes of high quality work. And there's going to be even more demand for those type of people, especially at companies who are starting to embrace AI or maybe not as comfortable with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think some practical examples I want to talk to people about as it relates to focusing on the outcome is you really just need to step back and ask yourself, why did my company hire me? What is the end thing? When you look at the job description, most of the things on there are responsibilities, right? Those are the responsibilities of the job, the duties of the job. They always said that you had to do those things because they really thought that if you did all of those things, this thing would happen at the end. It's now all about the end. So if you want to stay relevant in work, I think you have to think about, how do I get to the end as efficiently as possible? Anyone who tries to fight the idea that I want to hold on to these responsibilities, it's scary that the responsibilities of my job are going away, will lose their job. I don't think most of us, though, because humans are extremely adaptable, are going to lose our jobs. I think we are losing job responsibilities, and that's totally fine. If you think back to the 50s, the way sales was done in the 50s, prior to email, right? A lot of things were written, put in a filing cabinet. People had other people take notes. People would actually literally get people on a bicycle, go drive through Manhattan on a bicycle to deliver a note to a client. Hopefully we can meet up this week and talk about a thing. It would take forever for contracts to go back and forth via the mail. Things change, but those were always responsibilities. The responsibilities have gone away from the way sales was done in the 50s and 60s. Right? But the outcome is still the same. Make sales with clients, make sales with clients. I think one of the things that would change in sales is research. You can easily spin up agents to get research done for you on your clients all the time. There are agents now with things like OpenClaw or just more rudimentary agents that people have created with things like Agentic or N8N that you can spin up to monitor the internet for news about your clients, and it can deliver that to you in a brief, right? And then what you could do is you could have that agent that delivers you that brief also look at the knowledge base inside of your latest product release and translate what happened with your client based off of the latest product release that's in the knowledge base at your company and turn that into a compelling reason to reach out to them with value. Now, a lot of AEs, traditionally speaking, for strategic selling roles, haven't spent a lot of time deep in the technology. They focus more on the relationship and what their client is up to. Their job should evolve now to tying more of that into the product knowledge to be more valuable to their clients on their path to getting a meeting booked. Having agents that are trying to book meetings for you would also be really huge with clients. Now you could feed it your personality. You could have it email your clients every so often or every time there's a release. Tie something from the internet that we learned about the client to what happened in the release. Email all my top champions and ask if they want to sit down for lunch. I'll fly out to them for a lunch and learn, and we'll talk about the latest feature release. If you were spending all the time doing all that manual stuff to book that meeting that you always have done, then you are in jeopardy, maybe not right now, but in 2 years. Absolutely, you're in jeopardy. Why? Because the sellers who don't, sales is a numbers game, even though I hate saying that, it kind of is in certain regards. So the more emails that go out personalized about your product and what you saw about them in the latest earnings report, asking people for lunch that go out, the more meetings you will inevitably get, and you will whittle those meetings down to sales. And that's how you can use AI to get to the outcome. So I really believe that it's super important for all of us, no matter what we do, to say, what kind of tools are out there right now that can help me get to the outcome faster? That is the way to future-proof yourself. Because these companies still want sales. They still want support tickets closed. They still want customers renewed. So they'll gladly give you money if you just deliver that. And they are going to care less and less and less about how you get there.
Yeah. I think the outcomes alignment and focusing on what you were actually hired to do is such an important point, because the path there has completely changed, but that doesn't mean that the outcomes or the desired outcomes are different. I think that's a really important point for people to think about. And the biggest thing that I think AI tools allow us to do, or one of the biggest benefits, is the access to information, or the ease of access to information now. What you just mentioned, all of these manual processes that you used to have to go through to do research, to read reports, to compile information about your product releases, align them with customers, all of those things, there was a barrier to that information in the past. And even if that barrier is just time, there was a level of effort required to access that. Now, with things like Claude Cowork or company information with OpenAI, which we talked about on a previous episode, you can connect a lot of these data sources very easily now, which means that the friction to acquire that information is very low. Now it's way easier, way faster. And the benefit of some of these AI tools is not only can you more easily access information, but you can better synthesize information across different sources. So you can actually start to get an idea of trends or relationships across data. And that's the type of stuff that can help you either make a very targeted sales pitch to a prospective customer, or help you understand which prototype you should develop internally for your company first, based on what would have the most impact in terms of improving the product and usage. So a lot of this data that's available, and the fact that these AI tools can synthesize across it, allows you to figure out kind of strategically where you should best spend your time as a human, because you don't have to do all these mundane things on the side. And I think that the thing that I'm most excited about for people who, listen to this podcast, try these tools, get comfortable with this, is it is inevitable that companies and businesses are going to have to embrace AI technology. They're getting mandates from the executive leadership, from the board, from investors that says, hey, you have to explore this stuff because it's not going away. They need somebody who understands how it works to help them implement these tools. So even if you lose your day job or the thing that you're doing right now, if you become an expert on actually leveraging this technology, if you get really comfortable building workflows for yourself, you are now positioned to assist companies or assist people who need to implement these tools and have no idea where to start, because they're going to need somebody to help them do this. So the more familiar you are, the more valuable you become in this AI economy, because companies need people who know how the tools work in order to get these things spun up.
Yeah. Those companies are going to be looking for people as we transition, right? So we're not talking about 4 to 5 years from now, but the next 2 years, right, of the future. A lot of companies right now still have a bunch of job descriptions about the day-to-day responsibilities. I talk to enterprises all the time. We're like, yeah, we're using AI. We're innovating. I'm like, what are you doing? We're using Microsoft Copilot. It's awesome. You should see it. I could talk to it. It's like, oh, you have ChatGPT wrapped up in a Microsoft suite. Cool. And again, like, it sounds like I'm being a patronizing jerk. I'm not. It's just that's what AI was doing when 3.5 Turbo came out. AI is doing way more now, but that goes to show you the state of the enterprise, right? And it's hard because you have to drive adoption. These large enterprises across 20,000 people in 16 different offices globally. So it's really challenging. But in the next 2 years, they are going to look for people, like Justin was mentioning, who are experts at, hey, my company, we ask people to do all these inputs, but we're really looking for this thing. Do you know a way to get to that thing faster? And many of you listening might say, I'm a customer success manager. I manage a professional services team, right? I do inventory management. I do procurement. I do payroll. Like, I'm not some AI expert. How am I going to land that job? All you have to do is use these tools and you'll find your way into it, just like you found your way into doing payroll management. or human resources or customer success. You didn't go to school for that. Very few professions where you go to university to get trained up to do a specific job. Most of us fell into a path that was the first thing that we got hired for. And if it meshed with us and we did well, we continued down that path. So if that's true for you, which is true probably for most people listening, then it's also true that if you use these AI tools to try to figure out how to get to the outcomes faster for your current gig, that could also teach you how to do it for other departments, other companies. And just like you slipped into payroll management or being an HRBP, you might just find that you slipped into AI enablement for the enterprise. And that's something that's relevant, very relevant for the next year and a half, 2 years, not forecasting too far into the future.
Yeah. I also want to speak about a specific group who I think has been told to be most worried about AI tools, and that is recent grads or early stage career individuals, right? Because we've heard this narrative that a lot of the junior roles are disappearing and companies are realizing that they can save money by having AI tools do this work for them, the type of work that a junior analyst would do, or, early stage intern or whatever. There is a tremendous amount of leverage for those early career individuals, especially if you're in school now, or you just graduated and you're trying to figure out what to do, where the overall pressures of life are not as high as they will be down the road. You don't have a family and to worry about. You're not, hopefully you don't have a crazy high bills yet. You're scrappy and you're in the early stages. That is a perfect time for you as an individual to get really comfortable with this stuff, to browse X, or, formerly Twitter, and look at what people are talking about in terms of what OpenClaw can do and what Claude Code can do and Claude Cowork and what is OpenAI coming out with next. Because if you have the time and space to actually get really comfortable with this, all of these roles that have been automated away that you would otherwise apply for, you now can prove that you have more leverage professionally. You can start to create some of these outcomes, and you can use this as outbounding material for companies that you do want to work for and things that do interest you. And you can say, hey, look at this software suite that I built that automates XYZ process at your company. You upload these documents and this is what comes out. And I think that this might be really valuable, right? So it may be harder for you to get those entry-level jobs, but you can also dedicate time to learning how to use these tools and maybe even leapfrog individuals or career paths that would have previously been inaccessible to you. I mean, I talk about this all the time. My career now is only possible because of the AI tools that I use every day. I could not do the job that I do now, nor could I have progressed to the position that I'm in without these tools. And that's the reality. And so if you embrace that reality and you get really comfortable learning how to use them and building workflows and automating processes, even though it may be hard to get those entry-level jobs, you can potentially leapfrog and get to a better position faster anyways.
Really important that you spoke to the people that are entering the workforce for sure. And I don't want to minimize that experience because it was hard for me to get a job. I graduated into the economic crash of 2008, 2009. It was very challenging for me to get a job. So I think I can empathize greatly with just big societal and global pressures making it harder to get job, right? It's not trivial. That said, I don't think it's as doomsday. I'm going to look a little bit bigger picture. I don't think it's as doomsday as many of us think. I work for a company that automates job responsibilities, not entire job functions, just as your company does, right? It's a very big distinction I've never heard anyone say in the media is automating current responsibilities, current inputs, right? But we're not automating the entire output, the entire outcome. Short term, yes, companies are going to be really excited and Wall Street rewards if you find ways to say we're cutting costs and we can get either the same or cut costs and grow. So companies will figure out ways to use AI to automate inputs and job responsibilities and stop recruiting for certain roles, and Wall Street will reward them. But then when everybody starts doing that, what's next, right? To be a high value company, well, you have to find ways to grow your revenue more. And what's going to happen is we're going to see a pendulum swing. So first, we're going to see a lot of jobs automate, and people are going to get very upset about it. And I understand why that's upsetting. But does that company just not want to compete anymore? Are they all just going to say, this is status quo now? We all found ways to cut costs and we all found ways to grow. And yeah, we're good. We're just going to pack it up here. We're just going to move forward for the next 20 years like this. No, it's like, how do I do even more? Oh, well, what do you have to do even more? You hire more people. What do you have those people do? Drastically different AI-based inputs to get different outcomes. And none of us foresaw whatever you're doing with AI today, you are either more efficient in your personal life, you're definitely doing things at work you've never done before. Even if you are just using Copilot, like advanced Google search, guess what? I guarantee you believe you're doing better things than you've ever done before with AI. You never could have saw that coming, right? So it's just completely inevitable that new jobs will be created. Short-term pain, but long-term, that's what's going to happen. And people will pay for outcomes. Let's say you're looking for a $95,000 job. $95,000 job can generate $500K for that employer. They'll happily give it to you. And they're going to care less and less about the description. They're going to say, just go get it done and use the tools to get it done. That's 2 years. 3 to 5 years, job descriptions might actually talk about all the different AI inputs that you have to do, because we might figure out how to use those to get the job done, but nobody knows right now. It's complete greenfield opportunity, but stay hopeful. It makes no sense at all. When the NFL started to really adopt the passing game, right? And people were like, oh, the running backs are going by the wayside, and large linemen are going by the wayside, and large linebackers are going by the wayside, and all of a sudden, linebackers started looking like safeties, right? And it's like, oh, these positions in the NFL, these poor guys, woe is me. They're not making 20 million, they're making 8, right? What happens? We see adaptation happen. Because if everybody's doing that, then why don't I just bring in a huge running back and a bunch of huge linemen and big linebackers and make people adapt to me? And that's the way, in a dog-eat-dog world where winning matters, margins matter, everyone wants to get better, things happen. So it's inevitable to me that if they get rid of these jobs, they're going to say, okay, but our competitors are doing just as well. How do we beat them? We have to beat them and find new ways to get humans in to do different things. It's just these responsibilities, this day-to-day stuff that's never been your self-worth, that's never been your worth to your business. Your worth to your business has always been the final thing that you deliver to them on a silver platter.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a study recently that was basically said usage of AI tools has actually not reduced our work or the quantity of work that we do. And I actually think it's important, because some people would read that headline and be like, oh, this stuff doesn't work. But the second part of the study was, while our workload hasn't decreased, our individual leverage has massively increased. So the amount of impact that you're able to have as an individual contributor now is much higher because of these tools. And so the point that Matt just made about the salary, if you want a job making X amount of money, but you are generating 5X or more of leverage in that role, that's a no-brainer, right? Because to Matt's point, yes, cutting costs is important, but revenues also need to grow. And there are mandates for businesses to continue to grow revenues and to continue to expand. For good or for bad, that is the nature of the beast, right? And so these tools allow you to have more leverage as an individual competitor, or individual contributor rather, which means that these positions and roles and jobs will be available in the future. We're in this kind of trying to achieve equilibrium state of figuring out what work looks like as these tools continue to advance, as jobs continue to change. And then on the flip side, the other thing, I'm sure people are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk and his what he's been screaming from the rooftops for a while of like, hey, if you hate your job, why don't you become a blogger about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if that's what you love? And if you could make 80% of what you're making now doing that, would you be way happier? And so I also think there's another subset of people where that might be the move for them is, hey, maybe you want to start a podcast about AI for everyday people, or maybe you want to talk about something that interests you. And the other benefit of having all these AI tools now is you can be a one-man band and have all of the infrastructure you need to run that business, because these tools allow you to do that without having to outsource or hire people or raise money or do all this other stuff. So for those of you who are considering, or worried about what's next, but you don't like what you're doing anyways, well, there's a lot of other things that you can explore, and the tools make it a lot easier to do that if you want to go this solo entrepreneur route or solo business route or whatever. So I actually think that the quantity of opportunities has substantially increased, even though the narrative is the opposite of that, and that the jobs are going away and all this other stuff. Jobs will fundamentally change, but there's also a lot more flexibility that's possible now with what you can do if you choose to go your own path and kind of not do what you're doing today.
I think it's important for everybody to recognize that if a company doesn't have to pay $95,000 to get a $500,000 output, they won't. But as long as they need that, they will, right? So let's say they don't need that anymore for a certain thing. But tomorrow, well, now that they're making that $500,000 with a healthy margin, because they don't pay $95K to get it, they pay $15K worth of tokens to get it, they're happy. But then after that, they need to go to $650K, right? How do I get $650K? The business needs to grow. Well, your AI figured out how to replicate the inputs that some human used to do and get you to $500K. Okay. It doesn't know how to automate to $650. So what's going to happen? We're going to see a batch of new jobs come out. Because again, what do you do when you can't have a machine do it super cleanly? You hire a human. Full stop. Right? If the robots were super good at giving me the haircut I want and it was really cheap, I'd probably get it. But I just don't see that happening anytime soon. So I'm going to continue to go to a human. Right? Throughout human history, we have hired machines or animals, right, to do labor if we could, because it's cheaper. And every time we can't, we throw humans at it because it's too complex. You have to use judgment, whatever. It needs better dexterity. You hire a human. The second the businesses realize, well, we got to keep growing again, and the machine only knows how to pattern what we used to do, who do you hire for that? A human. So these new gigs will come online as well. There will be some short-term pain, but probably not for the listeners of this podcast. And here's some extremely tactical advice for your current job. If you want some practice at what we're talking about and you think it sounds too theoretical, go to the company website, find the job requisition for the position that you currently have, upload it into the LLM of your choice. Here is the job description of what I currently do and people in my role currently do. Be brutally honest with me. It's a great prompt. It works. Spare my ego. What parts of my job, based off of this job description, do you think can be easily automated or augmented with AI and AI tools for someone like me who's non-technical? Go through and list which tools I can use, how much they cost, and how I would get that done. And it will tell you. And then you can say to it, great, I want you to help me be the most hyper-employable person here at my company. Teach me how to do each one of those step by step. And find me free trial programs that will let me do it, or at least prototype it. And then you can go back to the management and present that. Imagine how valuable you will look. That's like maybe 6 prompts away from happening for everyone listening to this right now. And again, for that short term, Justin and I are trying to help you all be those people. Be that guy or gal internally that looks like they are the innovator. And then we'll worry about what happens in years 3 and 4 once you get to that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, we couldn't predict where we'd be now, and I certainly can't predict where we'll be in years 3 and 4 from now, right? The last things I'll say are, one, I think that's a point that we take for granted as people who use AI tools every day, and we haven't really talked about since the beginning of the podcast, is that regardless of which language model or tool you're using, the most important thing that you have in your pocket is the most advanced, well-accomplished mentor in whatever field that you could want at your fingertips, right? So something that I think we, again, forget to emphasize is that if you just have a conversation with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any of these tools and ask questions and treat it like somebody who knows everything there is to know about the thing that you're trying to get better at or the thing you're trying to do, just that will help you go down the rabbit hole enough to figure out what's next. And so that's something that I think is worth just reminding everybody of, is just have a conversation, ask questions, figure out what to do. The last thing I'll say, people who are worried about jobs, whatever, the Klarna experiment, they basically said, hey, we're going to automate all this stuff. We're going to get rid of all these humans. And then they ended up having to backtrack because you still need humans to achieve high quality outcomes, even if they're leveraging some of these AI tools. And then companies like Salesforce with Agentforce, who are trying to replace humans with these tools, still had to hire a bunch of humans to sell Agentforce. And so at the end of the day, the jobs still exist, even though the nature of those jobs may change. And I think, again, Matt's point about focusing on outcomes is just as true today as it was the last time we talked about this. Just the tools in your toolbox now are a lot more powerful and are a little bit different than they were when we recorded that first episode. So those are my closing thoughts.
My TLDR is there's 2 things. The listeners of this podcast can be the innovators that help companies get to the outcomes and figure out ways to automate or augment with AI. So let's not talk about whether you like it or don't. Because you listen to this podcast, you can be the innovator at work who spearheads this thing that's inevitable. Better you than your colleague, who does it before you. So whether you like it or not, that can be you. Now, let's fast forward. Let's pretend either you led that initiative at your company or your colleague did. And now we are in the bold future where there has been job loss to AI. It's here, it happened. Let's say, 18 months into the future. Inevitably, those businesses are not going to stay status quo. They're not going to be like, wow, this is it. So it's 2027 and this is what it's going to look like for the next 1,000 years, I guess. It's like, no, of course not. The second they get their cost savings and they're all happy about it, they're going to say, okay, well, what's next? How do we grow? And then there will be new opportunities that are created. So the best way for you to have the best career possible is be the person who maybe earns a promotion by being the first mover now to teach your company how to do it. And it's only a couple prompts away. And fear not, because also there will be all kinds of new opportunities if you aren't the person that does that. But if you aren't that person, you are putting yourself at risk. But because you're listening to this, y'all are already doing it. So good on you. And I think the future is bright. And on the path up and to the right, there's always some dips. It's normal.
Yeah. And if we do achieve this utopian society where robots are doing everything and we've massively increased the leverage of humanity and we're making money hand over fist with AI tools and the AI overlords, I think we will be able to figure something out if we achieve that outcome. You're right. I think people forget that the dystopian future and utopian future are often very intertwined and kind of rely on the same things happening. So, I think those will be good problems to have if we've suddenly achieved massive abundance in society at scale because of AI. And I think looking at it through the lens of today is probably inaccurate as well. So the future is bright.
You've inspired one last comment from me. I also believe that the utopia predictions are also wrong because I understand how humans work. So there are predictions out there of dystopia and utopia. I believe in neither. A utopia is, well, we have all of our needs met. We all basically operate on the same playing field. That's not how humans or any mammals that I'm aware of are wired. Competition exists, right? People are always trying to one level up, right? So if we all have robots are mowing the lawn for us and folding the laundry or whatever, so like beyond your basic human needs are met, then you think about what's next. If you have an infection in your foot, it's brutally painful. You can't think about your job or innovating at your job or your sport of choice, right? It's just like, get me a painkiller. Okay, that need is met. Cool. Now do you have a full belly? That need is met. Cool. Right? Do you have a roof over your head? That need is met. Cool. And you go. So when AI or droids or whatever come in and they are now going far beyond your wildest imagination of your needs being met, it is human nature to say, if this is status quo, if this feels good and solid, what can I be doing now? So even the utopian futures that people predict, yes, we're all going to have amazing comfortability, but we're all still going to be competing and innovating and one-upping each other because that's just how we're wired. So there'll always be a place for us, the humans, to push things forward. We're not all just going to sit because if we're all doing that, then we all don't think that's cool anymore.
I didn't know we were going to hit Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the end of this podcast, but I'm glad that we went there. As always, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this was valuable to you as you start to think about what work looks like in the future with AI tools. Until next time.
See you later.